Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're getting into something that can really make a difference in your English writing, especially if you've got something like the IELTS writing exam coming up. But honestly, it's useful for everyone.
Absolutely. We're talking about linking words and phrases.
Exactly. And we want this deep dive to help you really understand what they are, why they're so important, and crucially, how to use them properly.
Yeah, and I bet a question a lot of listeners have is, which specific words should I learn? There are so many.
That's a really common one.
But maybe before we list words, we should tackle the basics. Like, what even are these things we call linking words?
Good point. And why should you, listening now, actually care about them?
Right. So first things first, what are they?
Well, when we say linking words, it's not just, single words like however or also.
No, it's broader. It includes phrases too, doesn't it?
It does. Things like as a result or in addition.
It's a whole toolkit, really.
Yeah, and understanding that range is sort of the first step.
Okay. And these words and phrases, they fit into different grammatical boxes, right?
Yeah.
And knowing that is pretty important.
Super important because it changes how you build your sentences.
Definitely. So you've got conjunctions. Think and, but, because.
The classic connectors.
Exactly. And they usually sit in the middle of a sentence, joining things together. Especially words like because or, although the subordinating ones, they need at least two clauses.
A clause being basically a subject and a verb chunk.
Right. So an example might be, I need to ask for some time off work.
Okay.
Because I'm planning to attend a training course. See, because links the reason to the action.
Got it. Or maybe, although social media helps people connect, it also has disadvantages, although sets up that contrast within one sentence.
Perfect. Then you've got another type.
Yeah.
Adverbs.
Right. These often pop up at the start of a new sentence.
Often, yeah. Like consequently or on the other hand. And the key thing here is they usually have a comma right after them.
Ah, okay. So like living costs are soaring. Therefore, comma, some people are moving.
Exactly. Therefore, it links back to the previous sentence's idea but starts its own. Or elderly people deserve a pension. On the other hand, comma, the system needs to be sustainable.
Makes sense. What's the third category?
Prepositions. These are words like due to, despite, because of.
Okay, and what's the rule for these?
The big one. They must be followed by a noun or a noun phrase. Not a full sentence, not a clause.
That's a common mistake, isn't it?
A very common one. So you'd say, despite the health benefits of exercise, the health benefits is a noun phrase, many people are still sedentary.
Right, or cities are expensive because of the cost of living. The cost of living is the noun phrase.
Precisely. So you've got these different types, conjunctions, adverbs, prepositions.
But let's circle back. Why is mastering this so important for the listener? What's the payoff?
Clarity. Simple as that for your reader.
Okay, how so?
Well, these words are like signposts. They tell the reader instantly what kind of connection is coming up. Is it an addition, a contrast, a result?
So it guides their understanding.
Exactly. If they see also, they know, okay, here comes another similar point.
And on the other hand, signals.
A different perspective. A contrast is coming.
Or consequently.
Means here's the result of what I just said. It makes the flow logical and easy to follow.
So without them, your writing could feel kind of choppy, or the connections might be missed.
Totally. Even if your ideas are good, the reader might struggle to see how they link together. It puts the work on them.
Which you don't want. You want to make it easy for them.
Exactly. So now we know what they are and why they matter. How do we actually use them well?
Right. Because just knowing they exist isn't enough.
And I think a lot of people feel they need to memorize like huge lists of these words.
Yeah, that sounds daunting. And maybe not that helpful.
Probably not the best approach. The sources we looked at really stress focusing on the function. What job does the word do?
Okay, function over memorization.
Yes. Because often, several different words can do basically the same job. Take contrast, for instance.
Okay.
You've got however, on the other hand, nevertheless, although. They all signal some kind of contrast or opposition.
They might feel slightly different, but the core job is the same.
Exactly. So instead of trying to learn 20 contrast words, maybe learn 2 or 3 really well.
That feels much more achievable. Know the job, like showing contrast, and have a couple of reliable tools for it.
Precisely. And there are a few key functions that are really worth mastering.
What are the main ones?
Well, addition is a big one, just adding a similar idea.
Like, and also, furthermore. in addition, moreover, those kinds.
Yep. Then contrast, which we just mentioned, showing difference or opposition.
However, although, on the other hand.
Right. Then there's reason or purpose, explaining why.
Ah, okay. Like because, or you mentioned due to earlier,
Yeah.
in order to. So that's...
Those are perfect examples. Due to gives a reason, like in that sentence, about moving to smaller cities because of the cost.
Got it. And the last main one.
Cause and effect, showing a result or consequence.
So therefore, consequently, as a result, even just so.
Exactly. Like regulations got stricter. As a result, factories invested more. Connects the cause and the effect.
Okay, so those four. Addition, contrast, reason, purpose, cause, effect.
Those are the big ones. And the advice is focus on learning, say, 2 or 3 good options for each of those functions.
So you're not overwhelmed, but you have choices.
Right. Maybe you learn moreover for adding a strong point, and although for showing contrast within a sentence. Get comfortable with those first.
But, okay, knowing the function, like contrast is one thing. You mentioned grammar earlier. That's still crucial, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's maybe half the battle. Knowing the function tells you when to use a word, but the grammar tells you how to use it correctly in the sentence.
So knowing if it's a conjunction, an adverb, or a preposition.
Is essential, because they behave differently. And you can't just guess based on meaning.
You gave the because versus because of example. Looks similar, means similar things.
But one, because, needs a full clause after its subject and verb because it's a conjunction.
I was late because the traffic was bad.
Right. And the other, because of, needs just a noun or noun phrase because it's a preposition.
I was late because of the bad traffic.
Perfect. Getting that wrong is a really common error, especially using prepositions like despite or in spite of, and then putting a full sentence after them.
Yeah, you can't say despite it was raining, you'd need...
Despite the rain. Or if you want to use the clause, you need a connector that works like a conjunction, like despite the fact that it was raining.
Okay, so those little grammatical differences are huge.
They really are. And sometimes a word can even be more than one thing, like so. It can be an adverb or a conjunction.
So you really have to kind of check the specific word you want to use.
It pays off, definitely. Understand its function and its grammar.
Okay, so function, grammar. Is there anything else major we need to think about for using these effectively?
Yes. There's a really fundamental point that came up in the sources. It's about the underlying logic.
Underlying logic, what do you mean?
Well, the idea is that linking words don't magically create a connection between your ideas if one doesn't actually exist.
Okay, so they don't make the link.
They highlight it. They signal a connection that should already be there in the logic of what you're saying.
Right. So they're like spotlights on the relationship between your ideas.
That's a great way to put it. But if there's no logical relationship there to begin with, the spotlight just highlights, well, nothing. Or worse, it highlights a flaw in your thinking.
And this is where people can go wrong, especially under pressure, like in an exam.
Exactly. You should use linking words, so you might sort of sprinkle them in. But if idea B doesn't logically follow idea A in the way the linking word suggests, it just doesn't work.
Like using for instance.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. If you say, for instance, the reader expects an actual example of the general point you just made.
But if what comes next isn't really an example, just another related thought,
then for instance is misused. Even if the sentence itself is grammatically perfect, the logic is broken.
And that affects your score, like in IELTS.
Hugely. It hits your coherence and cohesion score. If the links aren't logical, your writing feels disconnected, hard to follow. It's a very common reason for scores getting stuck below, say, band 6.5.
So it's not just about vocabulary or grammar rules in isolation.
Not at all. It's about clear thinking first. You can have the fanciest linking words, but if your ideas aren't organized logically...
The linking words won't save you. They might even make the confusion more obvious.
Precisely. Which leads to a really key piece of advice. Planning.
Planning your essay structure before you write.
Yes. Thinking through the logical flow of your points first. Make sure idea A genuinely leads to idea B, or contrasts with it, or causes it. Once that logic is solid in your plan, then choosing the right linking word to signal that connection becomes much easier and more effective.
So the linking word reflects the plan, it doesn't replace it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Planning is absolutely fundamental.
Okay, this is really useful. Let's try and quickly summarize the key steps for someone listening who wants to improve this.
Sure. Step 1, think function, not just lists.
Right. Focus on those core jobs: addition, contrast, reason, purpose, cause, effect.
And aim to learn maybe 2 or 3 reliable words for each of those functions. Get really comfortable with them.
Okay, step 2.
Master the grammar for each word you choose. Is it a conjunction, adverb, or preposition? How does that affect your sentence structure?
Know the rules for using it correctly.
Yep, step 3. Understand the nuances.
Nuances, meaning?
Yeah, like words with the same basic function aren't always 100% interchangeable. We mentioned furthermore versus besides.
Right. Furthermore, adding may be a more important point.
Often, yeah. While besides might add something a bit extra, maybe less central. These are subtle differences.
So how do you learn those?
Look at examples. Use good online dictionaries that show words in context. See how native speakers use them. Ask a teacher. Check forums if you're unsure.
Okay, so investigate the subtle meaning. And the final step.
The big one. Prioritize planning.
Plan your argument, your logical flow, before you worry about sprinkling in linking words.
Exactly. Make sure the connections are strong in your ideas first. Then the linking words just make those strong connections visible to the reader.
That's a fantastic summary. It really feels like a practical path forward.
It really boils down to being intentional, doesn't it? Understanding why you're using a word, not just that you should use one.
So wrapping this up then, effective English writing, and yeah, especially for something like IELTS, it really depends on using these linking words well.
But it's a two-part deal. First, you need well-organized ideas with clear logical links between them.
And then you use the linking words to signpost those links clearly for your reader.
That's the key. So we'd really encourage you, the listener, to try those steps. Think function, learn the grammar for a few key words, check the nuances.
And always plan your logic first.
Definitely.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Think about how consciously identifying those logical connections before you pick a word might change how clear your writing becomes.
What other parts of your writing could benefit from really focusing on that underlying structure first and then the signals you use? Something to ponder.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
My pleasure.